Now I want to go into the sixth qa'idah that I want inshallah ta'ala to drive home. I want people to listen to this one as well. It's very important for me, which is, in this qa'idah, I want to speak about Ahlus Sunnati wal Jama'ah. And I can actually say this is one of the most important ones for me.
Okay.
But it's not that the others are not important.
Sure.
But this is very important for me, which is Ahlus Sunnati wal Jama'ah. They state that going against the hakim who is zalim or fasiq or he's a mubtadi', madama Muslim, as long as he's a Muslim, going against him, they believe that this is wrong, it is haram, you're a sinner for doing this. Also they believe, Ahlus Sunnati wal Jama'ah, they believe that it's obligatory to listen to him and obey him as long as he doesn't command you or tell you to do that which is disobedience of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala.
In which case, you don't obey him in that thing, but you obey him in everything
in the rest
else.
of the things.
Okay.
Now, inshallah ta'ala, I'm going to give evidence for that statement of mine. But before I go into it, I want to first of all mention that the evidence I'm going to bring are mutawatir.
What does that mean?
It means it reached haddu tawatur, which is mass transmission. It is multitude narration. This issue is not khabar ahad, few narrations here or there. Even though that we will take it, even if it's few narrations, we will take it. If Allah and His Messenger, or if the Messenger ﷺ said it and it's few in narration, we'll still take it. It's evidence, it's a proof.
Yeah.
But it gets even more serious when those narrations are mutawatir. And this is powerful for me because later I want to go back to an issue which is majalatul ijtihad. Places where ijtihad can enter. When can you do ijtihad? You're not allowed to do ijtihad if a nas is قطعي الثبوت قطعي الدلالة. There's no ijtihad for you.
What do those terms mean?
If the transmission of these narrations are established, they've reached you through mutawatir. If it's reached you through mutawatir, and the indication in these texts are clear cut, you're not allowed to do any.
Okay.
And on top of that, if there's an ijma' on it, all that's open for you is sami'na wa ata'na. And I want to prove that this is the case. Before I go in, I can't just claim that it's mutawatir and just leave it like that. I need to mention who said it's mutawatir.
Okay.
But if anybody goes out there and looks at all of the narrations, they will see that it's mutawatir. But then I'm going to mention some scholars who said it. The student of Imam Ahmad ibn Hanbal, Al-Imam Al-Athram, rahimahullah ta'ala, is a kitab called Nasikh al-Hadith wa Mansukhi, page 257. He says, ثم تواترت الحديث عن النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم فكثرت عنه وعن الصحابة والآئمة بعدهم. He mentions that it's mutawatir from the Prophet صلى الله عليه وسلم, the hadiths. And they are large in number, he says. فَكَثُرَتْ عَنْهُ. يعني a lot have come from him. Not only him, وَعَنِ الصَّحَابَةِ, the companions, and also A'immah that came after. Also, Shaykh al-Islam ibn Taymiyyah, in his Kitab al-Istiqamah, the first volume, page 34, he says, رحمه الله تعالى, he said, نهى النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم عن قتال الأئمة إذا كان فيهم ظلم. The Prophet صلى الله عليه وسلم, he prohibited fighting with the oppressive Muslim leaders. لأن, he says, Ibn Taymiyyah, قتالهم فيه فساد أعظم من فساد ظلمهم. Because fighting with them is a greater harm than the current harm, which is their oppression. وعلى هذا, and because of that, فما ورد في صحيح البخاري, the narration that came in Sahih al-Bukhari من حديث أم سلمة, he said, أن النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم قال, that the Prophet said, and then after he said, ليس هو مخالفا, it is not in opposition to what? لما تواتر عنه, those narrations that have come from him in mass transmission. And the narrations that have come prohibiting us from going against the oppressive Muslim leader. The third Imam who said this is Al-Imam al-Shawkani in his Kitab Nail al-Awtar. In the 7th volume, page 367, he says, Rahimahullah ta'ala, he said, وَهِيَ مُتَوَاتِرَةً. Yani these narrations are mutawatirah. And you know the mutawatir are two types. We study this in Mustalah al-Hadith, right? There's two types of mutawatir. There's mutawatir which is lafzi, and there's a mutawatir which is ma'nawi. Shawkani rahimahullah here, he says that it's mutawatir ma'nawi. He says, وَهِيَ مُتَوَاتِرَةُ الْمَعْنَى كَمَا يَعْرِفُ ذَلِكَ مَنْ لَهُ أَنَسَةٌ بِعِلْمِ السُنَّةِ. Anyone who has spent a short period of time and accompanied hadiths will know that this is mutawatir. In other words, if you have smelled the fragrance of knowledge, and if the fragrance of knowledge just reached you, you would know that it's what? Mass transmission. Now I'm going to go through the hadiths one after the other. I'm going to go through the ayat and the hadiths, or the ayah or the hadiths that I'm going to use inshallah ta'ala. First of all, I'm going to start with my first evidences are evidences that mention that it's obligatory to listen and obey the leader who's a Muslim, and that it's haram to go against him. And that these evidences I'm going to bring does not distinguish between whether he's just, whether he's oppressive, whether he's an innovator. It doesn't. And if there was a difference between all of those, the Sharia would clarify it for us and say this is different from this one in ruling. It would have said it. And because it hasn't done it, the qaida is فَإِنَّ الْأَصْلَ بَقَاءُ الْعَامِ عَلَى عُمُومِ. The qaida is that the general evidences should be left in its general state, unless there comes another evidence that specifies it. Let me mention the first evidence. Allah Tabarak wa Ta'ala, He said in the Quran, يَا أَيُّهَا الَّذِينَ آمَنُوا, those of you who believe, أَطِيعُوا اللَّهَ, obey Allah, وَأَطِيعُوا الرَّسُولَ وَأُولِي الْأَمْرِ مِنْكُمْ. Allah said, obey, O those of you who believe. Obey Allah, obey the Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and obey those who have authority over you. Ibn Kathir in his tafsir, he said, وَالظَّاهِرُ وَاللَّهُ أَعْلَمُ. That which seems apparent and Allah knows best is أَنَّ الْآيَةَ فِي جَمِيعِ أَهْلِ الْأَمْرِ مِنَ الْأُمَرَاءِ وَالْعُلَمَاءِ. That this ayah is referring to two party of people, encompasses both of them, the leaders and the scholars. Both of them. There are some scholars who said the ayah is only talking about the scholars. There are some scholars who said that the ayah is talking about some scholars, they said that the ayah is referring to the scholars. Some scholars, they said it's referring to the leaders. But both of them are right.
Okay.
It's talking about
I do have a question. We're going to cover it later, but I'm going to let you continue. I have a question on that ayah about what precedes that ayah as well.
Okay.
And I want to ask that.
Inshallah ta'ala. Allah Tabarak wa Ta'ala here, He says, Ya ayyuha alladhina amanu. Let's study the ayah based on, we want to take the ruling from it. Allah says, Ya ayyuha alladhina amanu, ati'u Allah wa ati'u rasula wa ulil amri minkum. We have the word uli here. The word uli here is a nakira. It's an indefinite. And the qa'idah is that if an indefinite is attributed to a ma'rifah, something that is definite, what does it show? It shows umum, generalization. The poet Sahib Ustadh Abdurrahman Hassan in his Qawaid al-Fiqhiyya, he says, كذا من وما تفيدان مع كل العموم يا أخي فاسمع ومثله المفرد إذ يضاف ففهم هديت الرشد ما يضاف. If the mufrad is idafa is done to it, what does it benefit? It shows generalization. I'll give a mithal example.
Okay.
Some may not agree with the example to be accurate, but it's just ala sabili tamthil.
Sure.
Okay, there's a discussion regarding the example. But وَإِن تَعُدُّوا نِعْمَةَ اللَّهِ. If you sit down to count the blessings of Allah, the ayah doesn't say blessings. The ayah just says ni'mat Allah. The ni'mah is only one. But because it's attributed to a mu'arraf, which is Allah Azza wa Jalla, it shows all of Allah's blessings subhanahu wa ta'ala. Here we have Ya ayyuhalladhina amanu ati'u Allah wa ati'u ar-rasula wa ulil amri minkum. Uli here is attributed to a ma'rifah, which is what? Al-amri. Uli is attributed to al-amri. If an indefinite is attributed to a ma'rifah, the qa'idah according to the scholars is that it is what? Is general. So here it means obey all the leaders.
But does it also mean, if it's general, it must also mean obey them in everything, like you obey Allah and His Messenger?
No, it doesn't say what to obey them in. It's not talking about it. It's saying obey Him. The evidence that we take that their obedience are restricted is external evidences. لا طاعة لمخلوق في معصية الخالق. The fact that the ita'atu ulil amri is not mentioned again. For example, the ayah says, يا أيها الذين آمنوا أطيعوا الله وأطيعوا الرسول وأطيعوا أولي الأمر منكم. Is that what he said?
No.
He said وأولي الأمر منكم.
So
in other words, the ayah already showed us that the obedience of the ulil amri has to be in line with Allah and His Messenger. That's why the ta'ah is only mentioned for both of them. His ta'ah is only in line with when he doesn't mention something that is disobedient to Allah and His Messenger.
So why can't someone say the fact that the word obey wasn't repeated here means that we obey them when they are in line, as in they're a Muslim, a ruler who is adil. But when they become a fasiq dhalim, we don't obey them anymore because the word obey wasn't used here.
Yani obey him. So we don't obey him when he's what?
So obey Allah and obey His Messenger and those who are in authority among you. The word obey wasn't repeated for the third time. Okay, or for the second time, repeated for the second time. The reason is repeated for the second time. But yeah, okay, it wasn't mentioned for the third time. The reason why it wasn't mentioned is because we don't obey every ruler. We obey the just rulers.
No, but it says every ruler here. Ulil amri is a nakiratun udifat. It's an indefinite that's been attributed to a definite. It means all of the leaders. Whether that leader is adil, whether that leader is zalim, whether that leader is a mubtadi', even if that leader is a kafir. From this ayah, all of them are in there. It's any party you take out of it, you're doing external evidences. This evidence is general. Ubadah ibn Samit, the second evidence I want to bring is Ubadah ibn Samit radiyallahu ta'ala anhu, he said, بايعنا رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم على السمع في المنشط والمكره وعسرنا ويسرنا وأثرة علينا وألا ننازع الأمر أهله فقال رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم إلا أن تروا كفرا بواحا عندكم من الله فيه برهان. The shahid I want from the hadith, the part I want to take from the hadith is وألا ننازع الأمر أهله, that we can't go against the oppressive leader. So we're not allowed to, وألا ننازع, we are not allowed to. Munaza'a means we can't haggle.
Struggle.
With al-amra ahlahu, the people of authority. Then the hadith mentions, إِلَّا أَن تَرَوْا كُفْرًا بَوَاحًا عِنْدَكُم مِّنَ اللَّهِ فِيهِ بُرْهَانٌ. There are two umum in this text. There are two generalizations. The first one is ahlahu. The word ahlahu, the word ahl is a nakira. And then it's been attributed to the dhamir here. فَأَفَادَتِ الْعُمُوم. It shows generalization. Every leader. Also, another evidence to show that there's umum in here is the istithna that was mentioned after it. Illa. And the scholars, they say, al-istithna'u mi'yarul umum. That the istithna shows that the generalization was there. Because when you mention general, you only take something out of it.
Right.
This evidence is what shows that when he's a kafir, we don't listen to him.
Okay.
This one, take the kafir out of it. Okay. The third evidence that I want to bring, inshallah ta'ala, to listen and obey the oppressive Muslim leader, and that we're not allowed to do khuruj on him, is the hadith of Alqamah ibn Wa'il al-Hadrami, that he narrated from his father. Before I go into this hadith, let me go back to hadith Ubadah ibn Samit. It's very important. Ubadah said, I took a pledge of allegiance with the Prophet. Bay'ah. And the pledge of allegiance I took from him is that I'm going to listen and I'm going to obey when I'm in times of ease, times of hardship, when it's وَأَثَرَةٍ عَلَيْنَا, when I see favoritism from the leader. Yani he's oppressing. He's taking things for himself. He's giving it to his people. His favoritism. The dhulm he's doing. The Prophet said to us at that moment, وَأَلَّا نُنَازِعَ الْأَمْرَ أَهْلَهُ. Do not try to remove him from his position or try to pull and push with him those people of authority. فقال رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم, he said, إِلَّا except though أَن تَرَوْا كُفْرًا بَوَاحًا عِنْدَكُم مِّنَ اللَّهِ فِيهِ بُرْهَانٌ, unless you see clear-cut kufr from him, that you have a proof for Yawm al-Qiyamah. That's the time when you can go against him and you can go against him. So those 2 points, which is ahlahu, which is lafdun, which is am. The word ahl is a nakiratun. It's attributed to that dhamir, so it shows generalization. And then the illa an taraw, which is istithna, and I said istithna is mi'yarul umum. This shows that it's referring to every hakim other than the kafir. The third one is Alqamah ibn Wa'il al-Hadrami. He said, I narrated from his father, that he said, سأل سلمة بن يزيد الجعفي. Salamat ibn Yazid al-Ju'fi, he said, I asked Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, Prophet of Allah, he said, Ya Nabi Allah, أرأيت, do you not see, إن قامت علينا أمراء, leaders that come, يسألون حقهم, they start demanding for their rights, they give us our rights, ويمنعون حقنا, but they don't give us our rights.
Right.
فما تأمرنا, what do you command us? Like, look what he said, فما تأمرنا, what do you command us? Not what do you suggest for us. It's important that we understand it, that the Sahabi asked the Prophet ﷺ a clear-cut question. That's why I'm saying these evidences are sarihun, sahihun, and they are qat'iyud dilala. Their indications are crystal clear. Hence why the other party is saying that this is the right way. The other part is just valid difference of opinion. So they themselves don't deny that these are evidences and proofs. They shouldn't, because that's why they believe khuruj should not be done. These are the evidence they're using. Oh, I hope so. So Alqamah ibn Wa'il al-Hadrami narrated from his father, he said, Salamat ibn Yazid al-Ju'fi asked the Messenger sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, said, Ya Nabi Allah, أرأيت إن قامت علينا أمراء يسألون حقهم ويمنعون حقنا فما تأمرنا, what do you command us? The Prophet turned away from him. فأعرض عنه. And then he asked him, فأعرض عنه. The Prophet turned away from him. He asked him the third time, second time, third time, 3 times the Prophet turned away from him. فجذبه الأشعث بن قيس. أشعث بن قيس pulled him, and the Prophet said sallallahu alaihi wasallam, what? Listen and obey. فيما عليهم, give them what is upon you from them. Upon them is what? فإنما عليهم, ما حملوا عليكم ما حملتم. The sins that they accumulate and the wrongdoings, they're going to be held account for you. Everyone has to give their part. And
a command in the religion from
Usul. In Usul al-Fiqh shows obligation, that it's an obligatory thing. Now look at the hadith. The Sahabi, the wajh al-dalala from the hadith I went from is in qamat alayna umara. Umara again is a what? Is a nakira. In the context of what? As a shart, a condition. It shows generalization. It shows all of the leaders. Not to mention that يمنعون حقنا. It shows you it's the
it shows
there,
exactly. Yeah,
that they're not going to give us our right.
Yeah, that's an important point, because they might say that we do have external evidences for the first two evidences you brought that take the dhalim, the fasiq out there. But this hadith clearly brings it in there.
Brings it in there.
Okay.
The fourth evidence I want to bring is hadith Auf ibn Malik. Auf ibn Malik mentions that the Prophet ﷺ, he said, ألا من ولي عليه وال فرآه يأتي شيئا من معصية الله فليكره ما يأتي من معصية الله ولا ينزعن يدا من طاعة. ولا ينزعن يدا من طاعة. The Prophet ﷺ said, عليه الصلاة والسلام, ألا من ولي عليه وال, anyone who a leader takes over his affairs. فرآه, and then sees that leader يأتي شيئا من معصية الله, he's coming with sins. فليكره, hate what he's doing. ما يأتي من معصية الله, the sins that he's coming with. ولا ينزعن يدا من طاعة, and do not pull your hand out in obedience. Again, the word here that's used is a walin. Walin is ismu fa'il. It comes from the word waliya. It's ismu fa'il. Walin is a nakiratun fi siyaq al-sharti. What does it show? فَتُفِيدُ الْعُمُومِ. It shows generalization. Then the Messenger sallallahu alayhi wa sallam clearly and categorically, what did he prohibit from? He prohibited from the munaza'a. He said, وَلَا يَنزِعَنَّ. Do not do munaza'a, dispute with them and argue with them and do khuruj on them. The Prophet used the word yadan. Again, yadan is a wat'am because it's a nakiratu fi siyaq al-nahi, right?
Yeah.
What does it show? Generalization. So you can't pull your hand out in any way, shape or form. Yeah. That's what the hadith is saying.
Wow.
Brother.
Where's the hadith narrated?
The hadith is narrated in Sahih Muslim.
Okay.
And the hadith before that, it was narrated in Sahih Muslim as well. And the hadith before that يعني hadith Alqamah ibn Wa'il al-Hadrami in Sahih Muslim. Hadith Auf ibn Malik is in Sahih Muslim. Hadith Ubadah ibn Samit is in Bukhari and Muslim.
Wow.
So they're not going to weaken those narrations. I hope so. What I want to say to you is that Shahid, something you're going to see now, which is, I just use the science known as usul al-fiqh and qawaid al-fiqhiyya, which is very important science that many of these people who are talking about these issues don't have understanding of. And the scholars, they used to say, man hurima al-usula, hurima al-wusula. Man hurima al-usula, hurima al-wusula. Anyone who's prohibited and prevented from knowing the usul al-fiqh, he's prohibited from reaching his goal. ولذلك Sheikh Ibn Uthaymeen rahimahullah has a little kitab in qawaid al-fiqhiyya and usul al-fiqh as well. Qawaid al-usuliyya and qawaid al-fiqhiyya rahimahullah. Small kitab. Students of knowledge, beginner students of knowledge do it. Right after they finish this kitab, they go for that one before they go for al-fara'id al-bahiyya. It's a kitab, small kitab. In the muqaddimah he says, وَبَعْدُ فَالْعِلْمُ بُحُورٌ زَاخِرَةٌ لَيَبْلُغُ الْكَادِحُ فِيهِ آخِرَةٌ لكن في أصوله تسهيل لليله فاحرص تجد سبيلا اغتنم القواعد الأصول فمن تفته يحرم الوصول. He says, to proceed, knowledge is an ocean. You're not going to get to the end of it unless you go through usul al-fiqh. And you're not going to benefit from the Quran and Sunnah like that. And then he said, اغتنم القواعد الأصول. These qawaid and these usul benefit from it, reap it. فمن تفته. Anyone who doesn't get given it, what happens to him? يحرم الوصول. He will be prevented from it. And hence why Islam is a unique religion over every other religion is because it mentions things to come in a principle manner.
Yeah.
The poet, he said, من اهتدى بهديه فقد ظفر ومن يحد عن نهجه فقد خسر تلفي به إلى الفلاح منهجا وعن جميع المعضلات مخرجا فليس خير قط إلا قرره ولم يكن من شر إلا حذره فديننا لم يخلو عن حكم على مر الزمان لو بدا ما أعضله لأنه قد احتوى قواعد تستخرج الأحكام عنها راشدا. يعني principles are taken like that. Look how we just took نكرة في سياق الشرط ونكرة في سياق العموم ونكرة أضيفت إلى معرفة فتفيد العموم. يعني these are principles a person needs to know. ولذلك a poet he said يظن الغمر أن الكتب تهدي أخا فهم لإدراك العلوم وما يدري الجهول بأن فيها غوامض قد حيرت عقل الفهيم إذا رمت العلوم بغير شيخ ضللت عن الصراط المستقيم وتلتبس العلوم عليك حتى تصير أضل من توم حكيم. If a person just opens a book, hasn't studied the basic sciences, the person didn't study usul al-fiqh, qawaid al-fiqhiyya, nahu, mustalah al-hadith, all of these sciences, you haven't studied it. And you just open big books like al-istidhkar, al-tamheed, you open al-bidayah wal-nihaya, minhaj al-sunnah nabawiyya, you open these books, you really haven't studied those little small mutun that you can put in your pocket. What's going to happen to you? You're going to become, and you don't take knowledge from a sheikh and a teacher, ضللت عن الصراط المستقيم. You're going to be misguided from the straight path.
Yeah.
And the poet, he said, ضللت عن الصراط المستقيم وتلتبس العلوم عليك حتى. All of the science gets mixed up from you. حتى تصير أضل من توم الحكيم. Until you become more misguided than توم الحكيم. You become a misguided person. You don't know what you're doing. You don't know your right hand from your left hand. And you come with things that مما تضحك به ثكلى. يعني مما تضحك به ثكلى, what it means is that the woman who lost her child or who lost her husband, at that time she's mourning, right? Even she will laugh at you.
Subhanallah.
مما تضحك به ثكلى means the thakla, the woman's crying, she's weeping. Even she will be laughing. She'll stop crying for a bit. She'll look at you and she'll laugh because she's like, what can possibly come from a person like this?
Yeah.
What I want to mention, inshallah ta'ala, is another evidence that the Prophet ﷺ, I want to support it, which is that the Prophet ﷺ, he mentions in the hadith of Abdullah ibn Mas'ud, the hadith Bukhari and Muslim both narrated it, that the Prophet ﷺ, he said, إنكم ستلقون بعد أثرة وأمورا تنكرونها. After my death, you're going to meet favoritism, leaders who are just choosing things for themselves and their family, and that's it. Oppression. وأمورا, and matters تنكرونها, you will reject. The Sahaba straight away, look what they said. فما تأمرنا يا رسول الله. O Messenger of Allah, what are you going to command us? You know these Sahabas, Shahid?
Yeah.
These Sahabas are Ahlul Badr, Uhud. They know fighting. They don't take oppression. They left their family and their children behind in Mecca. They're ready to fight anybody for the sake of the religion. And I'm going to mention some stories of the Salaf who spoke about their courage and their strength and how they would listen to the oppressive Muslim leader. I'm going to mention the athar of the Salaf later, inshallah ta'ala. So when they asked straight away, they said, فَمَاذَا تَأْمُرُنَا يَا رَسُولَ. What do you command us? Command. Not what do you suggest for us. Wallahi, any Muslim will say, my messenger commanded me something. I'm not going to use anything other than that. The Prophet said, تُؤَدُّونَ الْحَقَّ الَّذِي عَلَيْكُمْ. You're going to fulfill the rights that are upon you. وَتَسْأَلُونَ اللَّهَ الَّذِي لَكُمْ. You're right to ask Allah for it. Wallahi, the person who uses vulgar languages, says bootlicking or things like that, has to remember consciously that last sentence is all that the manhaj of Ahlul Sunnah is. تُؤَدُّونَ الْحَقَّ الَّذِي عَلَيْكُمْ. Fulfill your responsibility, what's upon you. وَتَسْأَلُونَ اللَّهَ الَّذِي لَكُمْ. And the one that is upon you, ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for it. In this hadith, the Prophet ﷺ, that's what he's commanded them. Usayd ibn Hudayr, Bukhari and Muslim both narrated, the Prophet specifically said to the companions what? فَاصْبِرُوا, be patient. حَتَّى تَلْقَوْنِي عَلَى الْحَوْض. Until you meet me at the Hawd. Bukhari and Muslim both narrated من حديث ابن عباس رضي الله تعالى عنهما, that the Prophet ﷺ, he said, مَنْ رَأَى مِنْ أَمِيرِهِ شَيْئًا يَكْرَهُ. Anyone who sees, Shahid, he didn't say anyone who hears. The ru'ya here is ru'yatu bil basar, is with the eyes.
Okay.
I saw on YouTube, there was a video like that. No, you saw in front of you something he did. Yakrahuhu, that you disliked, something munkar you saw in him. The Prophet, what did he say? فَلْيَصْبِرْ, be patient. فَإِنَّهُ مَنْ فَارَقَ الْجَمَاعَ. Anyone who cuts from the jama'ah. Shibran, this is shibr. Shibr is from this finger, the tip of this finger, to the tip of this finger. Shahid, is that a lot?
No, not at all.
That little, if you go out of the jama'ah, فَمَاتَ, you die. إِلَّا مَاتَ مِيتَةً جَاهِلِيَّةً. Your death is the death of a jahiliyyah. And Imam al-Nawawi said something about the previous hadith that I mentioned, hadith that Shaykhan narrated, Bukhari and Muslim, hadith Anas ibn Malik. Nawawi said something very powerful. He said, when he spoke about إِنَّكُمْ سَتَلْقَوْنَ بَعْدِ أَثَرَةً وَأُمُورًا تُنْكِرُونَهَا, the Prophet told the Sahabas, you're going to see things that are going to, favoritism and oppression and wrongdoing, you're going to see it. Nawawi said, هذا من معجزات النبوة. This is the indication of the Prophet's mu'jiza. وَقَدْ وَقَعَ الْأَخْبَارُ مُتَكَرِّرًا. He said, this has happened, repetition, one after the other. وَوُجِدَ مَخْبَرُهُ مُتَكَرِّرًا. وَفِي الْحَدِيثِ, and in this hadith is what? الْحَثُّ عَلَى السَّمْعِ وَالطَّاعَةِ, urging us to listen and obey. وَإِنْ كَانَ الْمُتَوَلِّي ظَالِمًا عَصُوفًا. Even if the one who's in power and is running the affairs is a what? مُتَوَلِّي ظَالِمًا عَصُوفًا. He's a tyrannical individual. فَيُعْطِي حَقَّهُ مِنَ الطَّاعَةِ وَلَا يُخْرَجُ عَلَيْهِ. What do? You give him your rights that are upon you and you don't go against him. وَلَا يُخْلَعُ بَلْ يُتَضَرَّعُ إِلَى اللَّهِ. But rather what do? You humble yourself to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. في كشف أذاه, to remove this harm from you, this individual. وَدَفْعِ شَرِّهِ وَإِصْلَاحِهِ. You ask Allah, oh Allah, what have we done to deserve a situation like this? You cry to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. You humble yourself to Allah for Him to remove this problem from you. وَدَفْعِ شَرِّهِ, and that Allah repels His harm from you subhanahu wa ta'ala. وَإِصْلَاحِهِ, and that Allah perfects the situation. And Imam al-Nawawi mentions this in his kitab, Sharh Sahih Muslim. He mentions it, rahimahullah, in Kitab al-Imara, the 12th volume, page 230. 3 رحمه الله.
And he specifically mentioned يخرج, the word where khuruj comes from. Yeah.
شيخ الإسلام ابن تيمية, look what he said about the same hadith. إنكم سترون بعدي أثرة وأمورا تنكرونها. حديث ابن مسعود صحيحين. Ibn Taymiyyah, he said in this hadith, he said فقد أخبر النبي, the Prophet told us, أن الأمراء يظلمون, that the leaders are going to oppress, ويفعلون أمورا منكرة, they're going to do wrong things. ومع هذا, with that being said, فأمرنا أن, he commanded us أن نؤتيهم الحق الذي لهم, that we bring them their rights that they have upon us. ونسأل الله, and we ask Allah الحق الذي لنا, we ask Allah the rights that are for us. ولم يأذن, he did not allow us في أخذ الحق بالقتال, to get our rights from him by fighting him. ولم يرخص, and he didn't even allow us صلى الله عليه وسلم في ترك الحق الذي لهم, that we say we're not going to give you your rights because you didn't give us our rights. Ibn Taymiyyah then brings the evidences to support that, rahimahullah rahmatan wasi'ah. He said that in his مجموع الفتاوى رحمه الله رحمة واسعة.